Watch and burn.
Hey everyone, so tonight I wanted to discuss Death Wish as in the first of 5 films, I believe, if memory serves, starring Charles Bronson. This is, of course, the most honest and the most focused and the most genuine of all of the Death Wishes, even though my favorite Death Wishes are 2 and then 3. 3 is my absolute favorite Death Wish, but this one I found, had they left this as a one-off, this would have most likely, it would have stayed completely important regardless of the fact that, no wait, hang on, I kind of lost my train of thought. Had they chosen not to sequelize this, I don't think this movie would have been respected anymore, because even though the subsequent sequels, the 4 sequels, have served to sort of hurt the legacy of the first film, it hasn't hurt it all that much, because when people do speak of the first Death Wish, they have a certain reverence, there's a pride, there's a lot of heart when they choose to discuss this film, because it seems like everybody who saw this movie, whether it was originally back when it came out in the 70s or at any time since, they seem to have a lot of respect for the character of Paul Kersey because of the intense trauma that him and his daughter are faced with as the result of a number of scumbags breaking into his apartment and beating his wife pretty much to death and beginning to gang rape his daughter, which traumatizes her to the point where she stops speaking. And this completely blows his life apart, but he doesn't let it destroy him, even though you could argue back that it destroys him completely, because the decent, like, well-meaning family man that he was is gone. And from this point forward in the entire series, he's dating people and he cares for them and everything, but it's almost like he's Paul Kersey, the vigilante, and then Paul Kersey, the significant other. It's like his eye is always on the prize of killing criminals, and everything else is secondary to that. So you could argue that this completely destroyed him as well as destroying his daughter. He spends the rest of this movie sort of seeking out trouble. He, of course, never finds the gang of men who are responsible for destroying his family, one of whom is played by a very young and a pre-famed Jeff Goldblum. And that's another interesting thing about the Death Wish movies, or at least the first 3, is that there is somebody famous involved in each of the rapes. In the first film, it's Jeff Goldblum. In the second one, Lawrence Fishburne plays one of the guys who gang rape Charles Bronson's housekeeper. And in the third movie, one of the guys that gang rapes Charles Bronson's buddy's wife is Alex Winter, who is Ted from Bill and Ted with Keanu Reeves. So there's always like somebody sort of famous in the works or just prior to achieving full-on fame are in these movies in a rapey capacity. And that is the other thing about this movie. If you are sensitive to that sort of thing, this movie or these movies, the first 3 at least, there is no rape in the 4th or 5th ones. If rape is something that bothers you, you could argue a lot in these movies. Technically, there's usually only 1 sexual assault, but in the second movie, for example, they had to cut it back because originally it was like a half an hour long, where they just brutalized the housekeeper endlessly. And the third one, the gang rape, it's more implied. You see them tearing her clothes off, and then it cuts to Bronson and his buddy being at the hospital where the doctor is telling him what happened. So like I said, he essentially spends the rest of this movie looking for people who are hurting people in any capacity so that he can kill them. And of course, at the end of the day, he gets away with it because even though the police are hunting him, they still sort of agree. And I love that about this, how Paul Kersey keeps slipping through the cracks because everybody sort of sympathizes with him because of what he's gone through and the good that he is inherently doing as far as wiping these people out. Even though I will argue the idea of becoming a vigilante may seem initially attractive, it always starts with something really meaningful and really honest, right? Like, yes, somebody wiped out my family, so I'm going after them. But then before long, people will start executing each other because they don't like the shirts they're wearing, or somebody crossed against the light, or somebody sneezed too loud. And that's why the whole vigilante thing, it needs to be stopped whenever it does seem to pop up, because people are morons and it will get out of hand really fast. I think my favorite thing about this movie is this is just a really great 1970s era New York film. There's a lot of wide open shots of like desolate subway stations, of course, because that's where Bronson will run into a bunch of trouble, of course, in the subway. God, New York in the 70s, that was a fucking scary place. But I think that's one of my favorite things too, like I said, is just that it's a really good New York film, and you get a really, really good sense of the 70s from this. It's like, it's a really good period piece as well. Yeah, you know what, I think I'll leave it there. This is a shorter one, so that's good. So thank you so much for hanging out with me, for pushing 6 minutes while I discussed Death Wish, starring Charles Bronson. If you liked this review or discussion or whatever this was, like always, don't forget to do something nice for somebody. And thank you. Have a good night. What the fuck was that? I just wanted to say thank you for making it through the entire video. I really appreciate it. And I'm going to remind everyone one more time, even though I've probably already done this in the video that you just watched, to please click the like button as well as the subscribe button, because it helps this channel grow. And thank you for hitting like and subscribe, and we will see you guys really soon.